Welcome to Lies of the Orange Era, where we dissect how stupid the Trump's cabinet members are. Let's see how qualified some of the most powerful people in the country are right now. And by qualified, I don't mean legally qualified. We've moved way past that. I mean like they can say basic parts of the Constitution type of qualified. Because I'm not expecting a dissertation on Marbury versus Madison. But if you're about to help run the executive branch, I do expect you to at least know what habeas corpus is.
What is habeas corpus?
Well, habeas corpus is a constitutional right that the president has to be able to remove people from this country.
No. You've just defined habeas corpus, one of the most fundamental protections in Western law, as a deportation power. That's like calling the First Amendment a government-issued permission slip to say stupid stuff. Habeas corpus isn't something the president, gets to use. It's something the government has to respect. It's the rule that says you can't throw someone in jail, whether they are a citizen or not, or out of the country without explaining why. It's literally the legal brick wall that protects people from being detained without due process. And here's Kristi in here treating it like it's some kind of executive action tool. Like the president just whispers, habeas, and poof, it's gone. That's not a law, that's Hogwarts. You know what's wild? Habeas corpus is in Article 1 of the Constitution. That's not buried in some obscure footnote. It's like on close to page 1 of the National Instruction Manual. And somehow this is the person running Homeland Security. Kristi, less time with the double layer of setting powder, more time with the founding document. This isn't a trick question. You're failing the quiz on the cover. So she's fumbling around the definition of habeas corpus on live TV, and instead of letting it ride, the congressman jumps in and cuts her off. Why? Why stop her? Just let her keep talking. Because when people like this get flustered, that's when the truth slips out. She might have told us the whole master plan. That habeas corpus is an inconvenience. That due process is optional now. I think that's what she really wanted to say. That the president, her president, doesn't need permission to decide who stays and who goes.
Well, habeas corpus is a constitutional right that the president has to be able to remove people from this country and suspend their right to...
Let me stop you, ma'am. Habeas corpus, excuse me, that's incorrect.
Right. And the president gets to hold court, write the charges, maybe even drive the deportation bus himself. Great. Let's be clear. Habeas corpus isn't about immigration at all. It's not about catch and release. It's about the government needing a reason, a public, legal, provable reason to take your freedom away. So no, Kristi, it's not a weapon the president uses. It's actually a leash tied to the executive branch. It's a warning label that says you don't get to act alone. Maybe she's got her history scrambled because of Lincoln. Yes, during the Civil War, Lincoln temporarily suspended habeas corpus. But even then, it was challenged. It was controversial. And big difference though, it was wartime. Chief Justice Taney called it unconstitutional back then. Congress had to pass a law, the Habeas Corpus Suspension Act of 1863, just to cover him after the fact. Lincoln didn't use habeas corpus. He shut it down for a moment and then had to answer for it, which kind of sounds like this is what the new plan is going to be going forward. I bet in 2 seconds they're going to start saying, oh, we're going to suspend it completely. So what's Kristi's model here? The idea that presidents can just pause the Constitution when it feels right? Because that sounds less like a policy and more like a test run. That's what habeas corpus is. It's the guardrail. It's part of the Constitution that forces the government to slow down and explain itself before it takes your freedom. No smoke, no confusion, no mystery. But Senator, next time, just let her keep talking. Like, we were so close. Another 10 seconds and she might have told us the president can suspend habeas corpus because he feels like it. Let them dig that hole. Letting her spiral a little longer might have shown us what she really thinks. That the Constitution in this administration isn't just restraint. They're just picking off it like it's a buffet menu. Something you flip through when you need a justification, not a limit. But no, the congressman pretty much saved her, which is probably the most dangerous part. We can't be saving these people, especially when they're just saying the most ridiculous bullshit, because it's gonna let Kristi go right back to pretending this was just like a slip of the tongue, when in reality, it's a window. Then the congressman, again, another congressman, he asked Kristi where the Constitution is in habeas corpus.
Section of the Constitution, the suspension clause of habeas corpus
I
is
do
in?
not. Nope.
Do you know which article it is in?
No, I do not, sir.
Okay, well, it is
The
in Article
suspension.
1.
Okay, now, that was kind of just mean. Just leave her alone at this point, guys. Just leave her alone. You already caught her making up constitutional law, and now you want to give her chapter and verse. You know she doesn't know it. It's already been, it's obvious. She doesn't know what habeas corpus is. She doesn't even know how many articles are in the Constitution. She probably thinks Article 1 is a subscription plan. And that's not even a deep cut question. The suspension clause is literally in Article 1, Section 9. It's not hiding, it's right there. The Constitution, actually, the whole thing is only about 7,500 words. That's less than half the length of a typical magazine, even at an average reading speed. And Kristi's not average, it might take her a little longer. You could read the entire Constitution in 30 minutes. It's about as long as it takes to make a DiGiorno pizza. So Kristi, it takes less time to read the document you swore to uphold than it probably takes to do your lashes. Why did you even take the job? Like, why did you want the job? Like, I don't get it. She's not even, she isn't some political influencer who said the wrong thing. She's the Secretary of Homeland Security right now with real power over immigration enforcement, detention centers, counterterrorism, and emergency response. I live in Florida, can't wait till the next hurricane hits. And before this, she was in Congress. She was in Congress, believe it or not. She served in the House of Representatives. She was in the room where people literally argue about the Constitution for a living. So what was she doing? What was she doing during that time? Because if you sit in those chambers for 6 full years and still come out thinking habeas corpus is a deportation mechanism, I kind of have to assume you're just like insanely dumb. I have to assume like you weren't paying attention, or you've been coached to believe that reality doesn't exist anymore. It's the only explanation. Honestly, at this point, I want to just shadow her for a day. Follow her around for a full day so I can finally see and understand what it is she actually does and why nothing is going in there. Because it clearly isn't studying legal precedent, and it clearly isn't preparing to answer basic constitutional questions. But we gotta give her a break, guys. We gotta give all the cabinet a break, to be honest. Because none of these people were chosen for competence. She was chosen for obedience and obedience alone. And for saying, the quiet parts out loud. Gotta get in front of the people, see if we can slowly sway them, right? And while that was unraveling in front of Congress, somewhere else in the same cabinet, the Secretary of Transportation was commissioning religious artwork while flights were nearly colliding.
I worked with the Academy, and because this is such a historic painting, I'm announcing that through that work with the Academy, this painting is going to go from the basement back to its place of prominence.
That's Sean Duffy, a guy whose new job is keeping the nation's transportation systems functioning safely. From highways to railroads to the literal skies over our heads. He apparently thinks the most urgent task he needs to be working on right now is getting Jesus into frame. This guy's not even an engineer. He's not a pilot. He's not a transportation expert. He's a former reality TV star and congressman. And now he's in charge of regulating the FAA, public infrastructure, transit, and national safety. This would be funny, except it's actually happening while planes are coming within 50 feet of each other in the major airports. We're getting collisions. So if that's the scope of the job, rail safety, aviation, infrastructure, emergency response, let's check in on what Sean Duffy's doing to improve all that.
To all the great midshipmen at the Merchant Marine Academy, you let me know how important this painting was to all of you.
I'm sure very few people know what you're talking about there, Duffy. This is the biggest nothing burger I've ever seen served with this much pride.
Now, we all know it was taken out of a place of prominence.
No, we didn't all know.
I worked with the Academy, and because this is such a historic painting, I'm announcing that through that work with the Academy, this painting is going to go from the basement back to its place of prominence. It'll be a moment to celebrate.
Celebrate? For what? If I asked anyone in the Merchant Marines about that painting, they'd say, what fucking painting? Dude, go get the airports under control. Nobody gives a fuck about the wall art. So what do Kristi Noem and Sean Duffy have in common? They're not outliers. They're the template. They weren't picked for competence. They were picked for loyalty and for staying on script. This isn't a cabinet, guys. It's a cast. Each one of them is there to play a role, not do a job. Look confident, stay loyal, never admit you're wrong, and never ever admit you have no idea what you're doing. Go ahead and break the system, then staff it with people too clueless to fix it and too loyal to say anything when it breaks. If this episode of Lies of the Orange Era made you laugh, wince, or question reality, good. That means it worked. Subscribe and share and help us document this shit before someone hangs it over a painting over history too.